mind, I am Stephen Wood, as you can see from the slide behind you. I am the head of tax at Barnes Rove. Who are Barnes Rove? You all shout. We are a sort of top 50 firm of accountants. We were until recently number 48. It shames me to report that in the last rankings we plummeted to number 52. Hopefully we'll rocket again to number 48 this time next year. What do we do? Well, we're a firm of chartered accountants, but we specialise in acting for what we call family companies, what you people will call SMEs. So the thrust of my talk will be about that. If you are coming here hoping to hear about the vexed issues of the taxation of banks and insurance companies and oil companies, you'll be sadly disappointed. I address the topic from my particular perspective, which is that of the family company. As you will see, I've been given something of an onerous task. Paul Greenaway phoned me up and said, would you mind talking at our Chelmsford branch? You spoke at our East London branch earlier in the year and they seemed to like you. And I said, love to. He said, it's an all-afternoon affair. I said, you must be joking, mate. They'll never listen to me all afternoon, but you're going to have to, I'm afraid. So we split it into two bits. The first bit is what it says on the tin, taxes under the coalition government. Then after we've had afternoon tea, we will talk about capital gains tax matters. Now, to add a bit of spice to the proceedings, Paul said that he wanted to hear about entrepreneur relief. And because entrepreneur relief was revised substantially by the coalition government's first budget, I thought I would deal with that in session one. So session one, an hour and a half, tea, about another hour afterwards, if you can bear with it. If you can't, I'll shut up as soon as you want me to. Now, we are living in historic times. People say that a lot. It's an old cliche, isn't it? And whilst I am here to talk to you about the tax issues that have been descended upon us, please do not overlook the inescapable fact, which is tax is only half of the story. There is a spending review looming in October. We already have a flavour of what that spending review is going to be about. It's going to be about making cuts, the dreaded C word, and when those cuts are made, I suspect the economic, political and fiscal landscape will be somewhat different. But at the moment, I'm not talking about that. I'm not here to make political points. I'm here simply to talk about the tax system. Now, to enable me to talk properly about where we are now, it is my firm opinion that it is useful to look back to see where we have come from. And yes, I am old enough and I am ugly enough to go back quite a long way in that regard. But fear not, I am not going to go back an enormous length of time. I am merely going to go back to that fateful day, which was the 22nd of April 2009. What was so fateful about that? That was Budget Day, 2009 Budget Day. And a lot of what was said in that budget is what we are wrestling with now. A lot of what we're dealing with now is nothing to do with the coalition government. The coalition government's emergency budget on the 22nd of June this year, I will tell you about in great detail, but before I do that, you must hear about the history starting in April 2009. So what happened in April 2009? Who was the Chancellor of the Exchequer then, can we remember? Alistair Darling, you all shout, yes. And what did he do in that budget? Well, he did a few things, did he not? But the keynote thing he did was he increased the rate of income tax, the headline rate of higher rate tax, to 50%. And being a cunning politician as he was, and being steeped in the way of New Labour, he announced it only to defer it. It was something that was going to happen in the future. He could announce the pain, but it wasn't immediate. Hopefully people will forget about it. And of course people didn't forget about it, or if they did, they now remember it. Because as we stand here, we have a 50% rate of income tax with effect from the 6th of April 2010. That was one thing he did. What else did he do? He announced that he was going to meddle with the pension system, or the relief for pension, the system for relief for pension contributions. So On the 22nd of April 2009, he told us two things in this regard. Not just one thing, but two things. He told us that from the 6th of April 2011, a date well in the future, even now in the future, that there would be a new regime. And under that new regime, people who were super high earners, which meant £150,000 or more, would have their relief for pension contributions restricted only to 20%. He didn't quite say that actually. What he said was it would be restricted so that if you earned £180,000, you would only get 20% relief. And it was implicit in what he said and the statements that accompanied it that there would be some kind of sliding scale between those two amounts. But that was in the future. What he then said was, inter alia, I don't trust you lot. I don't trust you lot not to fill your boots between now, the 22nd of April 2009, and the 5th of April 2011. So to prevent you doing that, I am going to introduce anti-forestalling rules. So as we stand here now, in September 2010, we are not exposed to what Darling said were going to be the new rules for pension contributions, because they don't start until the 6th of April 2011, and you will hear that actually they're not going to start. But what we have got is the transitional rules, which are transiting us from where we were to where we're not going to be. It's slightly bizarre, because the real new rules aren't going to start. But at the moment, we are in this rather peculiar anti-forestalling period where you only get tax relief effectively on your pension contributions at 20%, subject to some very complicated rules about whether you have historically made these contributions and have historically made them quarterly or more frequently, and if you earn over £150,000. So a big change took place there, and I don't know, perhaps I'm old-fashioned, perhaps these things are sent to irritate me and I shouldn't let them irritate me, but it did seem odd to me at the time, and it continues to seem very odd to me, that if you're going to bring in to effect a set of new rules, why not just bring them in? Why have two lots of rules? Why have a set of new rules in the deep future and a set of new-ish rules for the transitional period? I don't know, Darling presumably does, but that happened. What else happened on the 22nd of April 2009? Well, he announced, again, in the future, then, that from the 6th of April 2010, people who were high-ish earners, let's put it that way, not quite so high earners, wouldn't get the benefit of the personal allowance. It's a huge, huge change in tax policy, in my view. The personal allowance has been embedded in the tax system for as long as I can remember, and I can remember a hell of a long time. The concept of the first part of your earnings are tax-free has been with us forever. But now, as we stand here now, because we are now after the 6th of April 2010, if your taxable income exceeds £100,000, your personal allowance is removed at a £1 for every £2 worth of income basis. So if your taxable income is roughly £113,000, you don't get a personal allowance anymore. At a stroke, it raises huge amounts of tax. So that was budget 2009.